Blacksmith is the king of all trades. The blacksmith made the tools before we mass-produced everything. It was the blacksmith who had the ability to work the steel, the iron. And so whether you were a tailor, he made your shears and your needles. If you were a surgeon, he made your saw and your scalpel. If you were a carpenter, he not only made the nails, but the blacksmith made the hammer that you drove the nails with. And that was the stock in trade of a blacksmith, if he had any extra time, is just to make nails. Here's one right here that they call it a rose-headed nail. It's 5-sided headed square nail. And in small-town rural America, the blacksmith also was the horseshoer because he could make the shoes. He could work the hot metal. The way I became a farrier is that I could not find anybody to shoe my own horse, and asked a guy who I could get every once in a while to show me how to put a shoe on so that if I lost a shoe while I was out trail riding, I could put the shoe back on. And I just fell in love with it. It intrigued me that working with a live animal and putting a steel shoe on, and I've just been ever since doing it. In a horse's natural environment, he would wear his foot off at the exact same rate that it would grow. So they don't need anything. The way we use a horse, they need a shoe for protection, but because of that, the foot continues to grow and it does not wear off at all. So at the end of 6 weeks, the angle usually shallows on the horse, so the shoe is removed, the foot is retrimmed to its proper place, and either that shoe is put back on or you forge a new shoe. I do everything hot, so the shoes are forged hot and usually burnt on the foot to make sure that they fit perfectly. And then of course the shoe is cooled off and then nailed on and then clinched. The nails are bent over and made into a nice tidy clinch and cleaned up, and you're good to go for another 6 weeks. Most of my work in blacksmithing is I'm a tool maker, and I like making tools for other blacksmiths and farriers. Hammers, tongs, punches, drifts, all the tools that you use every day, that's what I like to make. Your anvil is the most important tool you have. When you're working on the anvil, it is a rhythm that you get into with the hammer. And you'll see a blacksmith oftentimes hit the anvil instead of the work. And what he's actually doing is keeping the rhythm going. As he's looking at what he's doing, he's got that split second to think where the next blow is going to be. He'll keep tapping to keep the rhythm going. I do a lot of my work with power tools, with power hammers, which takes a lot of the strain off of my body, and I can do it a lot faster, and I can work bigger stock. I can work much bigger stock. If you're swinging a 2-pound hammer, there's only so much that you can realistically do to move steel. My power hammers can move a lot of steel in a very short period of time. Today I was going to make a hoof pick, a very ornate hoof pick, and a hoof pick is what a horse owner uses to clean the mud and the rocks and the dirt out of the bottom of their horse's foot. Blacksmithing in general is a series of processes, whether you're upsetting, drawing out, twisting, fullering, and a hoof pick is a lot of those processes. So I'm going to start by cutting the piece of steel and then marking it. It'll be 5/8 square. And then we're going to put some fullering grooves in it. And then it's going to be twisted into a very ornate twist. And then I'm going to do a drawing out of both ends under a power hammer, which makes it a lot easier for me to do as opposed to doing it by hand, a lot faster. And then shaping what's been drawn out into a hoof pick. This is the finished product. Any blacksmith or farrier in this area knows that my shop is open to them. Jake is with us today. He is a young farrier, makes his living shoeing horses, but he's gotten into knife making, and he comes by and uses my equipment, and he's turning out some beautiful knives.
That's actually an old shoeing rest. As soon as they get wore out, we make knives out of them. It's really good high carbon steel, kind of like recycling, actually. And then these are all Damascus. Damascus is pattern welded steel. You weld it together in the forge, and it makes it, when you etch it with the acid, it makes the pattern. The best hobby a guy can have.
It's a very rewarding job, and I actually still consider it my hobby. I get up every day and I still want to go to work, so I'm a lucky person in that respect. It's physically taxing, definitely. I think it keeps me young. You know, in making tools, especially the hammers that I make, I know that that hammer will still be a usable tool 100 years from now. It's a great satisfaction to know that long after I'm gone, it'll still be there. That tool is always going to be used.